Hello, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining Foundry Live, Empowering Artists with Nuke 13.0. My name is Joyce, Industry Marketing Manager here at Foundry, and I hope you're doing well and staying safe wherever you are on this world. If you are new to our virtual event series, welcome, and I hope you enjoyed today's session. I wanted to run through a few updates and some housekeeping items before we dive straight into the session. The session will be recorded and available as on-demand straight after the webinar. And the session will end with the Q&A. So if you have any questions, please add them to the questions tab on the right-hand side of your screen. I'd like to take this moment to thank our sponsors, Lenovo and AMD. We are working with Lenovo, AMD, and our other partners as part of our new program to test selected third-party workstation across all of our products. So thanks to our sponsors, we are excited to give away a ThinkStation P620, a Lenovo and AMD Threadripper system, which includes an NVIDIA Quadro RTX 5000 to one lucky attendee. So to be eligible for this giveaway, you need to opt in upon registration. If you didn't opt in, no problem at all. You can sign up to one of the three upcoming Foundry Live events, and you'll automatically be slotted into the competition. So you still have time. We started Foundry Live last summer as a way to connect with you virtually and share product updates and release. This year, we're excited to come back for part 2, and our schedule includes a Moto 15 release, which is due next week. And Foundry's research team will be talking a little bit more about key forces and technologies driving change in the VFX industry, which is due on Thursday. And we will wrap up Foundry Live with an education summit end of next week. For more information and to register, please visit our Livestorm page or Foundry events page. This year, we are also taking part in several industry virtual events. We recently participated in HPA Tech Retreat and Spark FX, but be on the lookout for Foundry at the virtual FMX, GTC, Real-Time Conference, and SIGGRAPH. I'd like to take this opportunity to mention that Foundry is actively involved with the Academy Software Foundation, as we use many of their open source projects that are widely used in production. We have representation on the board, the Outreach Committee, and are actively involved in the Technical Advisory Council and various working groups. So to be successful, the Academy Software Foundation needs community members like you to contribute, code, get involved, and to help spread the word about the foundation. So make sure to visit the page and for more information on how to get involved. Foundry has many learning resources available on our Learn page, including tutorials, developer documentation, and release notes for all of our products. As part of our ongoing initiative to provide valuable learning resources, Foundry is excited to launch the Color Management Fundamentals and ACES workflow training created by Victor Perez and Netflix. So for more information on the training material, just join our webinar on March 31st. Stay connected with Foundry by subscribing to our YouTube channel, or check out our Insights Hub, where we host a lot of our case studies, articles, and industry trends, or follow us on social media. I'd like to give a massive shout out to Daniel Smith, who has recently launched his book, Nuke Codex, and we're giving away 3 books today for free. So no actions required from any of you. We will pick winners from the audience and send you an email. So stay tuned and keep an eye on your emails. So with that, thank you all for taking the time to join today's webinar. I hope that you enjoy it. And if you have any feedback, please feel free to reach out to virtual.events@foundry.com. And now I'd like to pass it over to our speakers. Welcome, guys.
Thanks, Joyce, and thank you all for joining us today for this preview of Nuke 13.0, our next major version. So I'm Christy, I'm the Senior Director of Product at Foundry, looking after product management and product design for the Nuke family and Flix.
Hi, I'm Ben, I'm the Research Engineering Manager and the lead on the AI research team.
Hi everyone, I'm Chris Webley, I'm an Associate Product Manager working on some different features, a lot of USD ingest at the moment.
I'm Juan Salazar, I'm the Senior Product Manager and I oversee the timeline products, Nuke Studio Hero and Hero Player, and Flix. And with that, I think we're ready to start. So let's go for it.
Welcome to Nuke 13, everyone. This release is the next step in our efforts to empowering you, the artist, and providing new tools to help you create the amazing work you do. To do this, our main focus has been on helping to keep your eyes on the images so you can do what you do best and create amazing visual storytelling. To do this, the first thing we wanted to introduce today is directly related to how you look at your work. In this release, we have extended the monitor out features and unified the system in Nuke and Nuke Studio. This means artists in Nuke can more easily view their work on a secondary monitor, even if they don't have access to a monitor out card. Now, you have the new floating window and its independent output called transfer controls so that you can view your images accurately on a separate display. This means you can have a working viewer and a display viewer set at the same time. For artists working with Nuke Studio, you can now seamlessly switch between the timeline and the compositing workspaces with no disruption to your monitor output. We have also included new controls and preferences to give you greater options of what and how you want to display it. An example is the ability to adjust the gamma and gain of your viewer that you can toggle if you want it to be applied or not to your secondary screen. Or the ability to have the input process, again, applied or not. As well as all the above enhancements for Nuke users, stability, reliability, and usability have all been greatly improved in the Nuke Studio workflow, and we have taken our first steps with HDR workflows directly on the main viewer, with the ability to display HDR images on XDR and EDR-enabled monitors on macOS. Now, we also perform a lot of creative decisions on the 3D space. So we are happy to introduce the first step in our work to improve the 3D system. We have added Hydra and using HD Storm as the new 3D viewer. Now you can display a higher fidelity representation of your 3D scenes. This means artists can make artistic decisions inside of the 3D system rather than always having to switch back and forth with the scanline render. Hydra supports nearly all existing workflows you are familiar with, such as moving geometry, particle systems, and projection setups. But the real power of Nuke's new Hydra viewport comes with working with lights and materials in the 3D system. Nuke is now able to display lights, shadows, materials, and textures much more accurately than before. Here an example of the current 3D viewer and the new Hydra viewer and how much accurate it is to the final scanline render. As I mentioned, Nuke's Hydra viewer is the first in a series of projects we have planned to update the 3D system, addressing both the performance and user experience. And while we know that there is a lot to be done, we believe that this is a good first step and will allow artists to be more creative and more efficient when working with the 3D system. But what better way to use Hydra than improving our USD support? In Nuke 12.2, we introduced USD geometry reading in our efforts to reduce pipeline frictions and keeping artists focused on the images. We are introducing the import of USD cameras, lights, and axis data into Nuke native nodes. Like the Hydra work, this is only the start in making Nuke a more collaborative space, and we are excited to continue the development of USD to allow for greater sharing between DCCs using non-destructive workflows. We have also updated our USD version to 20.08 and kept this in line with our other products to make collaboration and pipeline workflows easier. For those waiting to get more out of USD in Nuke right now, all the extensions to the USD nodes are being open source so that the pipelines can further extend and customize these nodes for their unique USD use setups. And finally, on this first section about looking at your images, we also look at images with our teams. With Nuke 13, we are happy to release Sync Review. We actually introduced Sync Review in Nuke 12.2, as a beta feature, as we wanted to support artists who suddenly found themselves working remotely and in need of tools that allow for collaboration at distance. Now, we are releasing it with more features needed to enable teams to collaborate and continue working together towards a shared vision of the final image. In the initial release of Nuke 12.2, users had access to the playback controls, annotations, version systems, and soft effects parameters. And now, in Nuke 13, we have expanded the ability to sync all the actions needed in a review session. This means users can now make changes in the timeline, import new footage, create and modify new soft effects. This means you can have prep or ad hoc sessions, either to show a simple color change using soft effects, or working on the timing of an animation using the retime tools in the timeline. These sessions can be just between a couple of members, or with an unlimited number of users seeing the same thing at the same time. We have also enabled annotations on Hero Player to make sure everyone can communicate together. Sync Review, like many of our features, is about listening to our users' needs and trying to help building tools that allow artists to work better and more efficiently. The next topic is something that I think will change how we do a lot of work. But I'm going to let the person that have led this work to present it to you. So next, Ben, it's all yours.
Thanks, Juan. So, I'd like to tell you all about the exciting AI Research or AIR plugins which form our new machine learning toolset available in Nuke and NukeX. The headline tool is called Copycat, and we hope it's going to revolutionize the way you work. Copycat's a NukeX plugin that allows an artist to train their own neural network to create a customized effect specific to the sequence or set of sequences they're working on. So, how does that work? Well, the artist feeds Copycat just a small set of before and after images for their effect, and Copycat trains a neural network to replicate the transformation to get from one to the other. It then exports the trained network as a .cat file, which can be loaded in our next tool, the Inference plugin, which can apply the effect to the rest of the sequence. This way, Copycat allows the artist to work at scale much quicker. You produce just a few frames the old-fashioned way, and then you can use the trained network on multiple similar sequences, potentially even across whole shows or series. It's important for us to mention that we're not trying to replace artists with machine learning, and the results are only going to be as good as the data you feed in. We want Copycat to empower and assist you to do the things you love and not have to spend time on repetitive, boring tasks. I'm sure you're wondering by now what effects Copycat can do. Well, we've seen it work with beauty work and cleanup, garbage matting, marker removal, fixing focus issues, but really, it can do any image-to-image task, and we can't wait to see what it can do once it's in the hands of artists' imaginations. So let me show you some examples. First, I'm going to show you how you might use it for garbage matting. Let's say we wanted to mask out this man in the desert. The whole shot's hundreds of frames, but we're going to roto out just 6 manually, picking frames where he's in different positions so as to capture the variation in the sequence. We plug these before and after images into the Copycat node and hit Start Training. And then Copycat will go off and train the network. Now, this might take a bit of time depending on your hardware, so you might want to set off training before going to lunch or going home for the evening. Alternatively, you can just run a new instance of Nuke while it's processing. And here's the result. Hundreds of frames of pretty good quality garbage mats with just 6 frames manually rotated and a half hour or so of GPU time. Next up, we have a beard removal example with Foundry's own version of Henry Cavill. We've painted out his beard in 11 frames, and as you can see, it's done a pretty good job of applying the cleanup to the entire sequence, which is, again, hundreds of frames long. So, on top of Copycat and Inference, we're also shipping with a couple of pre-trained tools. The first of these is the Upscale node, which uses machine learning to upscale footage by a factor of 2. And here we've compared it to the TVI scale node, and as you can see, Upscale's done a much better job of bringing back high frequency details and edges. We also have the deblur node, which removes motion blur from footage. In this sequence, we've stabilized a wobbly shot, and as we zoom in, you can see that, like magic, the bookshelves have been deblurred. As a final note, both of these pre-trained tools are available with a standard Nuke license. Thank you all for listening, and now I'm going to pass you over to Chris.
Thanks, Ben. Okay, yeah, so something that I want to start on is how an already much loved tool is coming to Nuke 13, and I'm talking about Cryptomatte. So with Nuke 13, it's now a native node inside of Nuke, and you can find the Cryptomatte node inside of the Keyers menu. This implementation includes an updated UI with a new vertical matte list to make viewing your selected mattes much easier, the ability to select the Cryptomatte manifest if it's embedded in the input image or contained in a separate sidecar manifest file. We also have the introduction of wildcard functionality, so you can perform your selections as usual, but if you use an asterisk, then you can make more sophisticated matte selections inside of the Cryptomatte node, giving you real flexibility and power in what you're selecting. We've also integrated Python 3 support so it can work with your ongoing productions. And having Cryptomatte inside of Nuke really means you no longer have to download it as a third-party gizmo, and means that going forward we can develop this tool further so that artists can keep getting more from the workflows they utilize most. So one we're really happy to see inside of Nuke 13. Okay, so performance. Performance is something that has been at the heart of Nuke development for a number of releases now, and with Nuke 13 we really want to continue on this theme. So on average, when rendering scripts, if we just look back, Nuke 12.1 was 18% faster than 11.3, 12.2 was 15% faster than 12.1, and Nuke 13 is looking to be on average 10% faster than Nuke 12.2, and all of this is with improved thread scaling. So what does this mean for you as an artist? Well, it means that you can see your scripts loading faster. When working with things like transforms on complex snow graphs, you can see those results faster, and also playback. Playback inside of Nuke, because you're dealing with large image data input, it's very difficult to make it real time, but even having it perform a bit more is giving you quicker feedback, more instantaneous ability to make your creative choices. So as I said, performance with 13 is something we want to continue building upon and bring to as well other areas inside of Nuke. Now, keeping Nuke as a dependable cornerstone of your VFX pipeline is something we take great pride in, and we know this can only happen if we support the libraries and SDK updates you need. As such, with Nuke 13, we're continuing our support of the VFX reference platform, and for the 2020 platform, this includes quite broad and significant upgrades that sees Nuke using some of the later versions of technologies, things like OpenEXR 2.4.2 and Python 3, which we know how much of a big update this is. We're also including file format and SDK updates for Avid and Ari, and we've extracted these into separate plugin packages so that you can access these file formats for the release you're working on, rather than only when you upgrade. So hopefully you've seen some really interesting and exciting features in Nuke 13 already, but I'm going to hand it back to Christy now, who's going to show you some other things that we've been working on.
Thanks, Chris, Ben, and Juan for walking through what's new in Nuke 13. Nuke 13.0 kicks off a new series of releases, and development is already underway for the next Nuke 13 release, as well as looking ahead to Nuke 14. Of course, it will be iterating on the machine learning toolset, Hydra support, and the other features introduced in Nuke 13.0. However, today, I wanted to give you a glimpse into some other projects we have lined up for the next release cycles that we haven't mentioned yet today. The first of those is color. So color management and understanding color is increasingly important for pipelines and artists. Most studios and DCCs, including Foundry products, now use OpenColor.io as their main color management system. The recently released OpenColor.io version 2 offers many potential improvements for color management in Nuke. We're most excited about the improved consistency between processing on the CPU and the GPU. We hope we'll be able to use this to enable a more consistent experience between viewing images in Nuke Studio and Hero and viewing them within Nuke. We've already been working on integrating OpenColorIO v2 into Nuke, and we hope to have an alpha of Nuke 13.0 with OCIO 2 support available for initial testing very soon. Improving the experience when working in Nuke, especially in the 3D system and the node graph, as well as the Nuke Studio and Hero timeline, is an area of focus for us for the next releases. So here I have a quick preview of some early designs and prototypes to show the kind of ideas that we're thinking about. This first one is going to be familiar to anyone that's been compositing for a while. And that is the ability to shake to disconnect nodes in the node graph. So here we have disconnecting a single node, disconnecting multiple nodes in a stack together, then reconnecting them. You can also select nodes in different locations. So here we're disconnecting these two transforms. And when you use the shake to disconnect, it maintains the structure of your graph. It's pretty cool. The bit in the middle there where it's reconnecting a stack of multiple nodes, this is something we've actually added in a recent maintenance release of Nuke 12.2. It's also Nuke 13.0, so something you can go play with now. This next one here shows resizing a backdrop node from all four corners. So on the right, we have an example that was built for Mari. We're looking to do the same interaction in Nuke with, of course, the Nuke style backdrop node. Last, but definitely not least, we have the ability to visualize the internals of a group, live group, or gizmo within a script. The aim here is for artists to be able to quickly understand what's happening inside the group and where it exists in a broader hierarchy. Especially as live groups are being used more, it's becoming increasingly common to have groups and groups and groups, group inception, essentially. So here we have in this prototype the ability to toggle on and off, expanding and hiding the contents of the group. Here you can see within this visualization, you can move the nodes around, into a layout that makes sense to you and that fits within your script. We do know that everyone can structure their scripts differently, so there is some control over where that visualization is displayed. So here we're going to show toggling it between being on the left side or the right side of the node. And then here we have showing that multiple hierarchy of groups. So we have a live group with a group inside it, and then another group inside that one. And here you can see, it quickly and easily visualizes what's happening at those different tiers of groups. All right, so these ideas are the tip of the iceberg on what we could do for user experience improvements inside Nuke. We have been referencing feature requests submitted over the years, but we want to keep hearing from you on what you need now. So please keep sending in those feature requests via support. We do look at them and we hope to use them to influence these projects over the next development cycle. Today, we've been talking a lot about working within Nuke. And to finish up, I want to talk a little bit about how we're improving the way that Nuke works with other packages. We see Nuke being used throughout pipelines, sometimes as a secondary tool for tasks like map painting, is one example, as well as a tool for reviewing work within simple slab comps. So we're working to make it easier for artists across disciplines to work within the context of the final comp, so they can work more efficiently and collaboratively. Also, we're saying this is an effort across the products at Foundry and not something that's unique just to the Nuke team. The first place we're starting is with the interaction between lighting and comp. In these sister disciplines, you often have artists using Katana and Nuke side by side. This video shows a proof of concept created by the Katana team. They also showed this yesterday in the lighting and look dev session, so if it looks familiar, that's where it came from. So here in this video, we have a live render from inside Katana using the Foresight rendering system introduced in Katana 4. Pixels, as they're rendered, are being streamed into Nuke, where we have a relatively simple Nuke comp with some color correction and a Z to focus. When that comp is processed, pixels from Nuke are streaming back into Katana, where they create a new catalog entry and can be seen in the monitor. All of this is happening live while you're doing your live rendering within Katana. So as the lighter, you're working more directly in the context of that Nuke comp from within Katana. Again, this is a very early proof of concept, and there's a lot more that the team has planned for making the workflow between Katana and Nuke more seamless and scalable. So watch this space over the next few months. Game engines, and in particular Unreal, are being used more in animation and VFX for previs and virtual production, as well as a final pixel renderer in some cases. So we're looking at how we can streamline bringing data from Unreal into Nuke to accelerate comp and to enable more fast creative iterations between Nuke and Unreal. So this video here shows a proof of concept created by Foundry's research team, bringing data from the Weta Meerkat project in Unreal into Nuke. So here, we're going to use the Nuke Server plugin to enable a connection between Unreal and Nuke. Then use the Unreal Reader node to choose which map and sequence to view from the Unreal Engine project. You can choose either an individual shot sequence or a master sequence. So here you can update multiple actors in Unreal and be able to quickly view the changes in the Nuke comp. So within Nuke, we can select the render passes to bring from Unreal to use in your comp. This gives you the ability to bring in what you need for your work, really as you need it. There are also some advanced settings which allow you to optimize the movie render queue render output for your needs. And lastly, you can create a linked camera to allow you to comp new elements into the scene, visualize the scene through point clouds, and composite using Nuke's 3D system. If you want to learn more about the Nuke Unreal Bridge, as well as what's next in machine learning across Foundry, definitely suggest that you join in with the research team session on Thursday. Same time, you can sign up in the same place you registered for this one. Definitely recommend that you check it out to hear more about these projects and what's next. With that, turn it over to questions. All right, there we are, Nuke 13, and some bonus features for you all. Great.
So
should we do some questions?
yeah, we have quite a lot, and all the messages have been great. So that's good to hear that everyone is kind of excited with so much stuff. I'm gonna start with this one. That was the first question, and it's at the top of the whole thing. So does Hydra have real-time ray tracing and RTX support?
Yes, this one's me. Great.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think the key thing about Hydra and what we've added in Nuke 13 is Hydra with HD Storm as a viewport renderer. It's one step towards updating the 3D system in Nuke, and you'll see more improvements over the next releases. But it is important to note with this one that, it essentially improves the experience working in the viewport and the image that you're seeing. Hydra and HD Storm, it is GPU accelerated, but it's not a real-time render. And this also doesn't change, the processing in Nuke's node graph itself, right? It's really limited to what you see in the viewport. Anything else you'd add to that, Juan or Chris?
No,
I think that's summed up perfectly. Juan, seeing as you were willing to volunteer Christy for a question, I'm going to volunteer you one. Would you mind clarifying how sync works?
Yeah. So sync review, you can connect through a port, an IP. So you need to be able to see the machines either on the same network, or if you're in different networks, you need to be able to actually see them, or through VPNs. And then the footage has to be accessible for anyone on the session. So either through a centralized network, or everyone having it in their own machines, or kind of in their own locations. And these can be either with, again, as many users as you want, or that your network allows you to do it. And obviously multi-OSs, so not everyone has to be on the same OS. If you're in different OSs, you need to make sure that the path remappings are set correctly on each side. But that's about it.
Cool. There was also a question about OCO 2.0 being included in Nuke 13. I can't push the screen because Nigel already answered it in chat, but just for those who are interested, it'll be in an alpha of Nuke 13.1, but not in 13 straight away.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have a question from Luis asking, will all these Nuke features come to Nuke Indie? I'm not able to push this to the screen at the moment. Maybe someone else can.
I think, Chris, you have to cancel there is one that is on the screen. So
I clicked minimize rather than done answering. Yeah. Apologies. Yeah. So yeah, will all these features come to Nuke Indie?
The answer on this one is yes. The one kind of caveat is that when you use Copycat to train models in Nuke Indie, they'll be encrypted, so they'll be able to be read in Nuke Indie. So you won't be able to use Nuke Indie for training that's destined for Nuke, but you should be able to read in, the commercial Nuke generated cat files and generate your own for use in Nuke Indie.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. One's already answering this one in the message, but I actually think it's worth pushing to the thing. Does Copycat have the ability to use distributed calculations amongst multiple machines, or are you just tied to one machine? Ben, I think you're best for that.
Yeah, currently you are tied to the machine you're running it on. It's something we've thought a lot about and looked at internally. It's actually a very difficult thing, because as you start to expand to try and calculate on multiple GPUs across machines, then there are other bottlenecks that come in, like your LAN architecture. But it is something that we'd be interested in looking at in the future, especially because people keep upvoting that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a nice amount there.
There was another question I saw come in on the chat. I don't know if it made it to the questions, but related, and that was, do you need access to like a cloud-based network and an always-on kind of setup when running Copycat?
No, because it's on the machine that you're running it on. It would be that GPU.
Yes. So one of the strengths, right, of Copycat is it's all contained within Nuke, like on your machine. You don't need any kind of outside network to use it.
I had another question, which was in that space. Do you have plans to allow supplying custom models to the inference network?
We do. Yeah, I wouldn't like. It's definitely on our roadmap. There will be some caveats to it. It probably won't be all models, and most likely it will be PyTorch models. So, if you don't mind which way you're going out of PyTorch and TensorFlow, I've got PyTorch.
Yeah, it's a further thing. An important one, actually, I think to note: do the Air nodes work with Ampere graphics cards?
They do work with Ampere graphics cards. There's again a slight caveat in that the very first time you run it, it needs to compile some CUDA code. So it will take about 20 minutes, half an hour, the very first time, just once, and then it will work.
Cool. Has anyone spotted any other questions they want to jump on now? Otherwise, there's a Python question we can flag.
Since we're on the roto, probably we should clarify this, right? Does it output the splines, or is it an image, or the output image? And probably Ben.
Yeah, so Copycat isn't a direct replacement for AI rotoscoping. So it will just output the mat, and we are only positioning it as outputting garbage mats at this point. I don't think it's going to be a direct replacement for high quality Roto. That said, Roto is something we're very interested in, and we do have a research project going called Smart Roto, which is looking exactly into this. But Roto is a really hard problem, so I wouldn't be worried about the Roto robot coming and stealing everyone's Roto jobs just yet.
I'm going to flag this one just because I think it's a big one with a lot of votes. Is Python 2.7 still somehow supported? Migration will be fun otherwise.
So in Nuke 13, Python 2 is no longer supported. It's a full move to Python 3. We do know it's quite a big change and that it may take a little while for studios to move. We are planning to support Nuke 12.2, including that File.io SDK package, which lets you update SDKs outside of a major release. That's going to be supported all through this year to help ease that transition. So yeah, we know it's a big one.
And we have added sync review and the annotations exports into 12.2 as well to make sure that everyone has that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point.
Sorry, the questions is just full of really good ones. It's hard seeing which ones will come next. So one, if you have one, feel free to flag it.
Sure, 1 second. I'm having some technical issues for a second. So
can we answer this one? Because it's the most basic, direct one. When is Nuke 13 going to be released? The answer to this one, as you might expect, is very, very soon. And in this case, I think we mean very, very soon. So keep an eye, on your inbox and your social media for this release very shortly.
Yeah, we also have one that follows up on some of the questions Ben was asking. Are the models for the AI training shareable?
They are. So Copycat will output a cat file, a .cat file, and you can then share that with your colleagues. And so you load that model in the inference node, and yeah, you can share the cat files around. You can even start your training from a cat file, so you can learn on top of what someone's learned already to speed up your training and build bigger and smarter models.
And then we had a question regarding how big that cat file for the example. I mean, the example there, but just in general, how big do the cat files get?
Now, I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but they're pretty small. They're like in the low numbers of megabytes. I think 10 megabytes.
Fantastic. So shifting on to some of the other features, we had a question regarding the interop between game engines. Will Unreal work with other render engines streaming into Nuke?
That is a great question. So that proof of concept, right, uses Unreal, I think because Unreal is being used quite a lot right now. Also because their movie renderer makes it quite easy for us to bring essentially AOVs, right, and passes into Nuke. That's where we're starting. I think our view on this is really, it's all about getting data into Nuke, and whether that comes from Unreal or it comes from another game engine or any real-time renderer, ideally our long-term vision is to enable anything, right, that you would want to attach to be able to be attached.
Great. We also had a question regarding the expandable groups. Can we work with nodes in the main group inside of the group? So obviously these are all proof of concept, but the plan is you can manipulate and modify it inside, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we also had a question regarding Apple M1 chip support. Is this planned, and if so, the potential timeline?
Yeah, so support for Nuke on Mac is definitely important to us. I can see in the chat there are a lot of Mac fans, Nuke on Mac fans in this group. We definitely want to keep supporting Mac. We are looking at the Apple M1 support We can't, I mean, there's not a plan for it, coming in Nuke 13.0, but hopefully it's something we can enable, in an upcoming release.
And along the theme of Mac releases, will you use Metal like other software on Mac?
It's a very specific question. So, I mean, of course, like our goal is to get Nuke to run, performantly on Mac. The idea of porting to Apple Silicon and the Apple M1 is a whole new, really essentially operating system, is a lot of work. And while we're likely to use some bits of Metal from the very start, we're likely to take a path that starts with emulation, then moving to support later. It's a very specific answer to that one.
Great. This one's got quite a number of votes. So can the copycat node be sent to a render farm? I don't know if we touched on this already. We might have done.
So no, you can't currently send it to a render farm. I believe it runs headless, so you can just run it, but it will be on the machine. It'll be running on the machine.
I think that it's important to clarify that the copycat as the training is not on the render farm, but if you have applied an inference and you are rendering your script, it's just a normal script in that sense, isn't it?
Yeah, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this one's interesting. Sorry, Juan, did you want to continue answering?
No, go on.
Sorry, I just thought this one was interesting. Is the connection between Nuke and Unreal two-way?
So that is a great question too. Again, it's like super proof of concept to this. You guys should all come on Thursday to get the full rundown on this project. Ideally, we would be able to push things back from Nuke, like from Nuke to be able to manipulate that scene in Unreal and then trigger, the renders out into Nuke and get that really, tight loop, right, without jumping between them. That doesn't exist in that proof of concept today, but it is something the team is thinking about for the future. At least the idea of, sending a camera both ways, right, for example.
If anyone has any others they want to flag?
Yeah, I think since you are on that topic, I'll post that to send them again.
Anything on virtual production?
This is another, well, actually, it is an area, right, that we're looking at, right? And I think if you see the, interop with Unreal and all the work on, viewing Nuke on different devices, like there's definitely a thread, right, in being responsive to that. So it's definitely an area that we're interested in. If you're working on a lot of virtual production projects, we would love to talk with you, about what you need and what we could be doing in Nuke and in other Foundry tools to help you. So definitely an area we're looking at. It's nothing that we can show you today, but we do want to get in touch with you and hear what you need.
I don't know if we have the right people on the call to answer this one, but it was an interesting one that got flagged. Will Cryptomatte data be available through 16-bit EXRs in the future?
Don't know this one.
That is one that I will flag to Anna, who's the product owner on this. So won't be able to answer that one for you now, but I will look that up for you, Chris.
Great. What else we got?
Well, that is going back to. Did I click that? No.
Yes, hotkey editor. Yeah.
No, but that's a different one. That's not.
We can still answer that. The answer is maybe. It is something that we've looked at. There's a challenge in Nuke with how many hotkeys and how many contexts there are to try to let you edit hotkeys. But definitely that fits into that category of all those user experience updates, right? That are on our long list of things that we could do to improve working in Nuke. So this one's important to you. Well, it's great to have it raised here. All those upvotes, that's awesome. But if there are, things you want to do with this or to make sure it's top of mind, don't hesitate to send in that feature request to support, because we are, actively tracking all of those right now.
Oh, I'm just going to flag this one because it's a quick one, but someone missed the answer about the release date, and it's good to make sure that one hits home.
Very, very soon. Very, 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 very soon. Not in like today soon, but very, very soon.
Ooh, this one's an interesting one from Victor. What about AI grain, both denoise and regrain?
Ooh.
So that's not one of the current pre-trained tools that we've got there. That was Upscale and DeepLearn, but it is something you could potentially train to do with Copycat. It's one thing, and it's something we've thought about and looked at. It's doing as another pre-trained tool. Possibly might make the roadmap going forward if it gets feeling more upvote.
And since we're back on Copycat, will Copycat and Inference eat a new Kex license?
No, it will not. You will need a new Kex license to change the cat file, but if the cat file is already set up in the script, then it will run in the new license.
Yeah, so you need NukeX for Copycat itself for training, for setting up the inference, but then from there it can be run in a Nuke script. And DeepLearn and Upscale, call it the wrong name, DeepLearn and Upscale are available with a Nuke license, right? So you can like use them as an art, you know, your Nuke artist can use them without the NukeX.
We also had one which was, is it possible to use the machine learning for keying workflows?
Again, there's no pre-trained tool for that, but you could use Copycat for keying, absolutely. Similar example probably to the garbage matting that we showed. Feed in some before and after frames, and I'm sure it will learn to pick out the key color.
Oh,
I love the enthusiasm for everyone that wants it to release like now.
it's so difficult jumping between the chat and the questions, just in the stream of text. I'm going to stick on the. Well, this one skipped ahead because of the voting, so now it's going to be answered. Is there a plan to have ZD Focus Node working with deep images like both?
It is something that we have investigated in different ways. So if you're interested on this one, really talk to support, send us a feature request, and to get it higher up on the list. But it's part of what we've been looking as part of kind of new UX and part of the new features.
Yeah, and the question I was going to raise is along the Copycat, could it be used to remove CG render noise? Obviously, the interesting difference between live action or live footage noise versus render.
Potentially, we haven't actually specifically tried that, but it's the sort of thing that it could definitely potentially do. If you just render some frames with higher settings with less noise, and also the ones with the noise, yeah, it could definitely potentially do that. I'd love to see someone try it and hear whether it works.
We have a question here. There's been a few questions about tracking, so I wanted to flag this one. Any update on the tracking features in Nuke?
We don't have anything specific on the roadmap at the moment. We have been doing different bits and pieces. I think Copycat will be interesting on how people use it on certain bits and pieces of what you can train with that. But if you have any feature specific to tracking that you're looking for, again, it'll be great to hear from you and get that sent to us.
Yeah, thanks, Ron.
I think we can put this on just so it's about color management and ACES. So yes, we know we are actually doing a webinar quite soon about color management in Nuke, and we are putting some training out on this. And as we have mentioned as well, we are working on the OCIO V2, which we're looking to put on alpha very soon out as well. So there is a lot of plans around color management, and we understand the importance of it and really working around it. If you are interested, again, come to that webinar. But now I forgot the date for the webinar, which I'm on.
I think it's the 31st of March.
Yeah. And it'll be with Victor Perez, which is also in the chat around. So it'll be very interesting, and we can talk all about color.
Fantastic. Someone's asking if they saw a flip-flop toggle built into the Nuke 13 viewer. I think this one might need a little bit clarifying as to what the monitor out stuff does.
So this is on the monitor out. So using either the floating window or a actual monitor out card and Azure or Blackmagic card. One of the options that you have on the viewer is to do flip and flop. So you can review that on your actual review monitor. That's the one you saw.
We have an off-topic one, but is that a Yamaha digital grand piano then?
It is Yamaha. It's not a grand, unfortunately. It's more.
It's still for show, anyways.
We'll have to have a concert portion in a future webinar.
Ooh, this one's an interesting one. Will graph state variables come to Nuke?
Oh, that is a very exciting one. It's like a tricky one to answer. So this is something that we are looking at. Like we do have, I mean, that groups visualization prototype, like that came alongside a bit of experimentation looking at multi-shot workflows and that kind of advanced live groups using something like graph state variables. So can't promise when that might come into Nuke and what that might look like, but it is something that we're looking at because yes, it would be really powerful, right, to have that kind of context switching within Nuke. There's a good question here on future Linux support. Can we do that one?
Yeah.
This one here. Linux. What's going to happen next with Linux? So Nuke 13.0 is going to ship supporting CentOS 7. So same as Nuke 12 and aligned with the reference platform. That's just kind of where we are now. We do know that, with CentOS support changing in the future, I think us along with every other vendor and studio out there is looking at the future of Linux and what distribution to support next. If there are things that you all are looking at that you think are quite compelling and where your studios are thinking of moving, definitely, again, support's a great place. Let us know because we're investigating this now as well.
We have. Oh, that one's been answered. No worries. We have a question regarding Copycat and GPUs. So it works on NVIDIA. Will it be usable on AMD and macOS down the line?
So you're correct that it does only work on NVIDIA GPUs and also CPU at the moment. We're very keen for it to be supported on other GPUs and on Macs. There's a lot of third-party libraries involved. So we are hoping for some third-party help along the way to get things running on those. It's not, but it's something we're very conscious of and would love to help.
Yes.
There was a question regarding suggested hardware specifications. Those things will be available on the webpage as soon as everything's live, so we recommend referencing to the website for any information there.
Great. What about should we do the RotoPaint one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Here, I can pop it up.
So yeah, I think with this, is one of those that has been asked quite a bit. It'll be good to get, again, we're working on a lot of the UX and kind of different bits and pieces like that. So this is another one that if you can send it to us, it'll be great. The team is definitely looking at all of this. So yeah.
Yeah, custom brushes is something that we've talked about, with the UX projects. But yeah, in this release, there's not an update to the RotoPaint node itself. And I think in our short-term plan, there's likely not one, but definitely in terms of user experience is something that we can look at improving. All right. All right, there's so many questions, I feel like, and they move up and down in the list, don't they?
Yeah.
Chase them down.
Apologies to those answering questions. We're trying to scroll through to find your ones that will be beneficial to as many people as possible in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
there's one here. Any chance performance feedback could be made a little bit more accessible while you're working on a script to tune the larger scripts? Mm-hmm. If you're not already testing or using the profile node, that typically gives a good indication of the performance of your script. But yeah, there are other, like you can set the -p flag in the terminal also if you're not already using those. So those are some things that I find useful when trying to profile my scripts.
Actually, we can answer this with the Cryptomatte. Work through the scan and render. So not at the moment. It's something that we're looking into. And now that Cryptomatte, again, is now native, we're looking at other ways that we can use Cryptomatte inside the scripts and inside Nuke. So it's part of the things that we've been looking into. If anyone has anything else to say to that, I think that's it.
We only have a couple of minutes left, just as a heads up. So if you see anything really important that you think should be answered, I'd flag it soon.
Yeah, well, I can address the pricing one here really quickly. I think just worth saying, right, there's not any pricing changes with this release, right? I think, as always, like we want to make Nuke accessible. We've been trying to do that with things like Nuke Indie. We're always trying to listen, right, to improve how we can change our kind of packaging and in how we deliver Nuke to you. But there's not any changes that we can talk about right now.
Oh, this one's a nice one from Victor that I'm just going to flag because I want it also. When are we going to be able to doodle on the script instead of making sticky notes? That's a fantastic feature suggestion. Those are the suggestions we're looking for. Users, please contact our support and send these through, as they're what's helping to inform things like the shake node, the group expansion, all that artist focused feedback. So really, really nice suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, with that, it's 7. So I'm sorry, I don't think we could get to everyone's questions. Is there any that anyone wanted to answer before we head offline?
Mm-hmm.
No.
No. I think just wanted to give one more plug for the innovation session on Thursday. Like that's the place to go and ask all those questions about the Nuke Unreal interop and where that's headed, as well as what's next in machine learning, in Nuke, and also in efforts like across Foundry. So definitely Thursday night, sign up for that one.
Yeah, and I think just a big thank you to everyone who turned up for this and for all your feedback. And this last year has obviously been a tricky one for everyone, so we really appreciate you being part of the Nuke family and coming and sharing this release with us.
Yes, thank you everyone. Really excited to have this one out there.